All right, everybody. The Celtics beat the Wizards last night. The NBA Cup is in motion out in Vegas. Kind of a slow week by NBA week standards. So we're gonna do what we can here for you guys. We got our in or out segment of the week, and we got our stat of the week coming up here. So you guys know the deal. It's Green with Envy. Let's lock in. What up, what up, what up? Welcome into another edition of Green with Envy. As always, this is your boy, Will Weir, checking in. How you doing? How you living? Joining me as he does each and every time, my best friend, co-host, and the coach of our podcast, the one and only, Greg Menakis. Greg, we have had only, let's see, what is it now? It has been basically two games in the last almost over 7 days. It's been a little light with the Celtics games right now.
It has been, and the last two games are against the Pistons and the Wizards. So, what really is there to talk about other than the Kristaps Porzingis news?
Yeah, so let's just go to it here, and real quick, just a programming update for everybody here with the holidays coming up. Obviously, we'll have probably a little bit of a lighter schedule right around the holidays, but we do have another Bleacher Report recording coming up here, so we want you guys to lock in. That is going to be on December 26th, 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central. Make sure you guys come lock in with us. We'll have everything from the Christmas Day game, Celtics, Sixers, and then look forward to what's coming in the new year. So make sure you guys lock in with us on that stream. But for now, let's stick to last night's game and the news that came out of that. So Celtics win 112-98 against the Washington Wizards, who are that's just the worst team in the NBA. Just not much there. And, Greg, one thing I did think about was that play that Jordan Poole had where he crossed up Peyton Pritchard, pointed at him, but then Sam Hauser recovered and he had to pass the ball. Has there ever been a play that just represents a person's on-court demeanor more than that play with Jordan Poole?
The only thing that comes to mind off the top of my head is Draymond Green choking out Rudy Gobert. But that's about it. Yeah.
Yeah, funny. Those two guys remain connected, but yeah, not much that happened in this game of note. So the biggest thing that came out of this was in the second quarter, Kristaps Porzingis leaves the game with an injury here. It appears not to be anything super serious, but anything with Kristaps Porzingis is going to kind of get your alert up here. A quote that we do have here from Kari Thompson of Boston.com. He asked KP about the injury. He said, "I banged up my heel a little bit in the first quarter early. Let me see, not early, but in the first quarter at some point. I kept on playing. It's nothing major, honestly. It's more like a precautionary thing." So it was on the other leg, so not the leg that he had the surgery on. So that is important to note. But Kristaps was playing really well in this game, actually. Before he went out, he only played 11 minutes, but was 5 of 6 from the field, had 11 points to go along with 2 rebounds and 2 assists and a couple of contested shots. But Greg, where's your worry meter at with KP leaving this game last night?
I mean, kind of where it's always at with KP. I feel like it's on my worry meter out of 10. It's at an 8 at all times with KP. Just because
consistent 7 with KP. Oh, he's left the game. Okay, let's go to 8.
yeah. It's I don't know how much we even want to talk about it, because we all of the stuff that we've talked about with Porzingis and what he means to the team over the years, and if he's healthy, they are the best rim protection team in the NBA, and if he's out, they're one of the worst. He's so important to the team. He unlocks so much for them. Just the ability to size up with Porzingis out there. You see a lot more of the 2 big lineups that Mazzulla's been going to with Porzingis in there and with Kornet playing as well as he's been playing. So there's just so much more that Porzingis adds to the Celtics team, where they go from being one of the best teams to the very best team in so many different categories. And it stinks that he would get hurt like this. It's on the same leg as his calf strain. So the calf strain that kept him out for most of the playoffs before he ended up tearing his ankle ligament. So that was the same leg. I recently had a heel bruise, which kind of lingered for a month or so. Just stepped on playing ball, just stepped the wrong way and kind of literally bruised my heel. So hopefully it's something like that, where it's just kind of a pain that you can manage, but some days it hurts more than others and it's hard to walk. And then when you add 2 feet to somebody's height and with a history of leg injuries, I'm sure it's even more difficult for Porzingis than me, who plays basketball once a week.
Yeah, giants and lower body injuries just usually does not, it's usually not a great sign, right? Especially as they keep reoccurring in different spots. But, hopefully this is just precautionary. Like I mentioned, the Celtics have played these 2 games in the last basically 7, 8 days. Now they have 3 more days off as we're recording this Monday afternoon. Celtics have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday off before they play their next game Thursday home against the Bulls. And so if there's ever a time to be overly cautious with some of these injuries or nicks and bruises, this is the time. I mean, the Celtics sat Tatum on Thursday against the Pistons. He talked a little bit about, his, it's just kind of a knee thing that's just around, but if it can get rest, it's always going to help. So this is the time. This is the benefit of not winning the NBA Cup is that you now have all this time off to be able to get your stars in the right place where they need to be. So hopefully it is just precautionary. I think it will certainly be something that we keep an eye on here going forward. Anything with KP, especially in that lower body, you're going to be worried that things start to add up, start overcompensating. You never know what can happen. So, this doesn't really change much as far as what the plan is with Kristaps. We're going to be cautious with him no matter what, right? So, he's not going to play back to backs, and if there's going to be a game here or there, if they have 4 games in a week, he's probably only going to play 2 of them, right? Like that's probably what's going to happen a lot of the time. So, I don't really think this changes much. We'll keep an eye on it. But yeah, anything else from this game? Like you said, it's really tough with these Wizards and Pistons games where it's hard to take anything from them. I mean, they won them by 25, and when they beat the Pistons by 24, Washington they were up large, and Washington closed the gap a little bit at the end, but still win by 14 points. Like it's just those type of games where really your only goal is to get out of there without injury, right? That's kind of the
Right.
goal.
Yeah.
There's not
Can
much.
work on some stuff, treat it as like a live scrimmage. It did seem like the Celtics were trying to play with a bit more ball pressure and defensive pickup points. I think were a little bit higher after watching the Thunder. I really wonder if Joe Mazzulla like watched tape of the Thunder play and is looking at
Mhm.
them as like a team they're gonna have to deal with at some point, and is like, you know what, we like 5 games in 7 nights, 6 games in 8 nights, whatever it was. Our defense ball pressure was non-existent. We need to get back to being one of the best, just perimeter guarding teams in the league. And I really thought that they did a great job over the last couple games, picking up the pace on both ends of the court. I think in the second half of the Wizards game, Scal even called it on the broadcast, that Missoula was telling them to slow it down and run through some sets. So
Mhm.
it did seem like they were kind of downshifting in the second half of that Wizards game. But I really liked what I saw in the Pistons games, because the Pistons are, they fly up and down the court. They've got some really athletic guys. And I thought the Celtics did a really good job just pressuring the ball over the last 2 games and looking to run off deflections and turnovers and things like that.
Yeah, and that's really the next step for the Celtics team, right? Is just kind of like ratcheting up that defense when it's needed to be, right, and getting that in sync. Especially, just as we mentioned, the NBA Cup is going on, and you watch that Rockets and Thunder game, and those are, kind of. I'd have to look at. I don't have the defensive ratings pulled up in front of me here, but those are 2 of the top 5 defenses in the league, no doubt about it, right? And OKC is on a historic pace with their defense,
Hmm.
and they just, goddamn, do the Thunder have so many dudes? Like that's the one thing that I just noticed with the Thunder is just they have so many guys, and then they have guys that just like end up on random teams that are, whether it's Lindsey Waters in Golden State that's now making contributions, or Trey Mann who was getting early 6 man of the year potential in Charlotte. Like those are just guys that they were like, we don't have enough space. They just get rid of
Hmm.
them, just throw them away, and they just keep having dudes. But yeah, when you look at the Rockets, would become one of my favorite league pass teams to watch because their defense is so intense night to night. You look at their defense, you look at the Thunder defense, you even look at, the Magic who keep losing obliques after obliques to their stars, but their defense is still legit. You look at those defenses, and the Celtics haven't quite been in that league yet. They've been hovering in that kind of like 8 to 10 category of defensive rating. So not bad, but they just haven't been that top level defense that we know they can get to, and we've seen them get to in spurts this year and certainly a lot of last year. So I think that is really, as we look past this NBA Cup break and start to get into, the rest of December and then through January before we hit the All-Star break. So those are going to have some tough matchups in there, and I'm really interested to see how this practice time. This is really what this is, right? You play the Pistons and Wizards. This is kind of like an NCAA team that has a couple low-level D1 scheduled
Mhm.
on their,
Yeah.
on their schedule, and that's where you work at some things. And so I am going to be curious to see coming out of this prolonged break what that does for their defense as they start to get into some of these matchups that are really going to test them as to see where are we right now as a team.
Yeah, for sure. You want to get into stat of the week and in and out?
Let's do it. Yeah, let's go to in or out first. Let's start there. This is going to be, for those that don't know, this is what either something that's just happening in our world, in the world that we are in on, or that we are out on that has occurred to us in the past week. Greg, why don't you start? Let's start with you.
I feel like normally I've been pivoting away from basketball for the in and out, so I wanted to keep it basketball centric, and I also wanted to keep it Celtic centric, just to kind of stay a little bit more on track.
Mm-hmm.
Here's my question: in and out on Luke Cornett having changed your mind completely about who the third big should be for the Boston Celtics? Because I feel like about a month ago everybody was saying it should be Kata. Has Luke Cornett completely changed your mind? Are you in and out on that?
I'm out on that, but I'll explain why. Because
Okay.
I think I've just started to look at Luke and Nimi as one entity. Like, I don't think there is an answer. Is kind of my answer to your question. I don't think there is a definitive. This guy is the third best pick. I think Luke and Nimi have separated themselves from Tillman. I think Tillman is now very clearly in that fifth spot. I don't consider him in that 3-4 spot. Like, it's going to go through Luke or Nimi before you get to Tillman, unless maybe there's something very, very specific, very, very matchup specific. But I think for me, even though Luke has had a really good stretch here and Nimi's been a little bit more up and down, if he had a really good stretch early in the season, I still think it kind of just comes down to matchup. And also I think both of them are going to go through, because you look last night when KP goes out, Luke plays 27 minutes, Nimi plays 10, and Luke was clearly the better of the two in that game against the Wizards, right? And so I think depending on what's needed and who's not available, whether it's KP or Horford, like that's going to make a difference as to who the answer to that question is. So I don't think I don't think it's definitive. I just think Luke and Nimi they're one person to me on this roster when I look at it.
Yeah, that's a fair response. It's kind of what I was thinking, is maybe it's going to be matchup dependent. I just think Cornette has kind of separated himself from Kata in terms of what was the differentiator for Kata was just like crazy swings of athleticism coming into the game. And not that Luke is a crazy athlete, but Scal and Drew, they've been calling it out during the games, shouting out the training staff and the Australians. Luke looks so much more athletic. Like he's more nimble, falling out of bounds last night on the fadeaway in one
That
opportunity,
was pretty great.
notwithstanding. It's just like he does so many of these things where he's like really looking like an actual pro athlete. Like he's not just out there because he's skilled and 7 feet, right? Like his athleticism is getting to the point where he's becoming a real issue for other teams around the basket. Like he's always been a good shot blocker, but I feel like he's starting to make his presence felt. And that's such a subjective thing to say, but it
Right.
does feel that way, that he's starting to make his presence felt on both ends of the court. Like last night, Sarr could not do anything with Luke Cornett or around the basket. Cornett was pushing him around. Even when Valanciunas was in the game, like in the past, Valanciunas is one of those guys that would just throw Luke, into the second row of
Right.
the under the basket, and Luke boxed him out and grabbed boards over him a couple times. I've just been really impressed with Cornett's continued development in terms of becoming a better athlete, and it really looks like he's coming into his quote unquote prime as an athlete, and it's really cool to see. I never thought I would feel this way about Luke Cornett. Last year, I predicted he wouldn't even like be on a roster at this point. Now that's the way I feel about Tillman. I was going to say, like, is Tillman even in the NBA in 2
Yeah.
years? I don't even know if he is.
Yeah, the Tillman part of this has been rough, and I was obviously very, very high on bringing in Tillman, and it just has not worked, man. There has not been a lot to look at. Then again, he hit that three in game 3, so we'll always have that. That was a big
Yeah,
three
he
that he
played in
hit
the
in
finals.
that moment, so we'll have that. Not quite the JD Drew grand slam that we think of for the Red Sox, but it's a moment. It's a moment that we won't forget. But yeah, it's very clearly Luke and Nimi, and I really think it's going to be just every couple of weeks. It's Luke right now. Luke's clearly in the lead. To start the season, Luke had the lead. Luke lost the lead. Nimi came in and took the lead. Now we're swung back to where Luke has the lead here. And, I still think one of the things that's always, aside from, and you're right, Luke definitely has shown more levels of athleticism. And that's, like you said, that's Nimi's big advantage, is like he is the athletic guy. So if Luke closes that gap, it makes it a lot easier to play Luke, because Luke has the IQ battle, right? Because there's just some plays, like, at one point they were joking about Nimi being on Shackton last night, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's something that you can expect, usually, even in good Nimi circumstances, you can expect a borderline Shackton moment, probably once a night when he's out there. And that's just kind of part of the deal, right? When it comes with it, but there is going to be a higher ceiling some nights, but it's that floor that can really drop out. Whereas Luke, for the most part, except for certain matchups, is going to give you a really steady balance. But you are seeing nights like when he fills in last night on the spot, like he was great, man. 7 points, 11 rebounds, was a plus 20 in this game, 4 assists to go with it as well too. And that's the other part is Luke can give you more, because in the short roll he can make some really good reads, right? That I don't think, we've seen him make a read or two, but I think Luke can do it more consistently, right? Luke can be that connector in the middle of the floor that gets the ball from side to side. And so
Kind
I
of that
think
Blake
that's
Griffin
really
role.
important. Yeah, exactly. That's a very good way to look at it. So I think that's really important, with this offense, because that's when this offense is at its best, right? Paint touches and moving the ball side to side. That's how, from Missoula creating that advantage ball, that's where you see it at its best. So, yeah, I like that take, Luke and Nimi. We'll see. I think that's one of the few things that we keep an eye on here going forward. And, the Celtics aren't going to have much versatility when it comes to the trade deadline, but like trying to, if they feel like they need to turn Jaden Springer into something, that's really the only move. That would be maybe somewhere in that spot. So we'll have to see.
At the end of the day, internal competition, I think, is great for growth, and they're pushing
Yeah.
each other every single day, competing with each other, and that's what makes champions. So, Celtics are in a great spot.
Yeah. All right. Let me go to my in or out here. And, I think part of what I'm out on right now, Greg, is brought on in part because there just has been so much less basketball. Like, this isn't the Celtics that are just in this 2 games in 11 days. Like, everyone who's not in the NBA Cup is basically kind of in this weird mix of a lot of time off. And so there's downtime, there's less things to talk about in the, in the NBA circles. And so I just feel like one of the most annoying talking points is TV rating discussions. I am so out
Oh yeah.
on anybody bringing up these TV, like, who cares?
As
I'm
you
sorry.
bring up
Like,
TV ratings.
well, to say, I know, right? That is a fair point, right? To say how out I am on it, but this is to say it, and then we're moving on, right?
Okay, all right.
It's just like really, because it's like, first of all, the NBA just signed a new deal for a bajillion dollars with Amazon, with NBC. So why is my Twitter feed just full of people talking about the TV ratings? And I think probably the thing that makes me the most annoyed about fans that are talking about TV ratings is they'll pull up a random Celtics or Wizards, or let's say the random Wizards game, and it's like they're 12 of 42 from 3. This is why ratings are down. I'm like, is it? Is that why? Is a bad shooting night why? Because I'm pretty sure for like when you guys really wanted, like, low scoring, you want this low scoring beef it out games. I'm pretty sure people weren't loving Spurs Pistons. I'm pretty sure you were in the building, Greg, right? I think for one of those Pistons Celtics games.
66, 64.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure nobody's yearning for that, right? Like, nobody's yearning for that. That's a halftime score right now. And I granted there's a middle ground to all this, but some of the reasons that people put out there for TV, I just don't understand why we're so obsessed with it, and why, especially, why does it always get compared to the NFL? Like, it's very clear it's 2 different products. Like, there's many different reasons. The NBA is far more consumed in small bite-sized Instagram, TikTok versions. Like, I don't know. I just don't understand why it comes up so much. And I think it's partially because right now there's not much going on, and maybe because the NBA Cup has 4 non-marquee markets, let's say, in it.
Mhm.
I guess that's the reasoning behind it, but there's just too much of that discourse. So I'm out on that discourse, despite bringing it up here on our show as discourse.
Yeah, let's move on. Let's go to stat of the week.
All right, let's go stat of the week here. I'll go first on this one here. I mentioned the NBA Cup, and I'm sticking with a theme here. I've just wanted to talk about we've talked about the NBA Cup a couple times recently, right? And so now we have our matchup set. It's the Bucks, it's the Thunder on Tuesday night. It's a pretty good matchup,
On
right?
matchup.
All things considered, that's a great matchup. So saw this the other day. Crazy but true. Giannis has not had a single game this season where he shot below 50% from the field.
Wow.
That's pretty crazy, right? And I know we talked about this because the Celtics played the Bucks just about a week and a half ago or so, and obviously with them being in the cup, we've talked about the Bucks a little bit here. It's kind of that revamped mid range jump shot. He's gotten rid of most of the threes in his diet, in his shot diet, but that revamp mid range game, that kind of 15 to 17 foot range, 14 to 17 foot range, has been a real weapon for Giannis. And obviously, him at the rim is just an absolute monster. But to have 23 straight games so far where he hasn't shot 50% shot below 50% from the field, yeah, that kind of blew my mind. So that's my stat of the week here. Giannis not shooting below 50% from the field the entire season.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing, man. I'm trying to like pull up Giannis shot charts really quickly. I just don't know if I'm pulling up the right years. Do you have the actual numbers from what he's shooting from the mid range or anything like that?
I do not. I should have probably looked into that more. I know he's much improved. When we had our guy Ty Windish on here, I know that he was talking a bit about how that's like the area that's been that trying to live in that almost that Dirk space, right? Trying to
Mm,
live in that in between without having the range that Dirk has, obviously, to go back out to the 3-point line. But try to get into that mid range. And you saw it a little bit. If you watch that cup game, he hit some shots against the Hawks that kind of lived in that area as well.
mhm.
So that's definitely been an area where, he's having a career year right now for Giannis, right? Like he's averaging 32.7 points per game. That's his highest points per game by almost 2 points, right? Shooting
Yeah.
62% from the field. Like this has been, despite the slow start to the Bucks, as the Bucks continue to trend up, like Giannis is going to squarely put himself back into MVP talks if his season continues to go this way. And if the Bucks can at least crawl back into that, 3-4 range, he's going to be a serious contender to win another MVP this season.
Yeah, shooting about 42% on pull-ups this year. And then when you average that out with the um, numbers he has at the rim, it's just silly. Okay, yeah, that's really impressive. This is why I think Giannis is the second best player in basketball, and I think there's a very real chance if the Bucks continue on this ascension that he could win another MVP. Because the Nuggets still kind of struggling a little bit. Jokic obviously having a completely otherworldly historic season, but
Yeah.
this is, I mean, how often has this been done? Like Dick Lipe, where you at, man? Like how often what's the longest a guy has gone into a season before having a game under 50% from the field? That'd be really interesting to see. Speaking of Dick Lipe though, if you don't follow at Dick Lipe, Lipe, he's the guy that they always reference as the stat guy for the Celtics broadcast. Peyton
Do we
Pritchard
know what
last
do
night.
we know what Dick Lipe looks like, by the way?
Yeah, I mean, go to his Twitter. He
Okay,
has
he
the
does. Yeah,
picture.
yeah,
He's
yeah. I'm
just like,
sorry.
yeah,
Here. I like that on the broadcast. He's kind of anonymous looking because it makes me think
yeah,
of like a Seinfeld character that you never see, like Bob Sacramento. Like
yeah,
it's just
yeah.
Dick Lipe is the Bob Sacramento of the broadcast.
Definitely, definitely. So he tweeted out that yesterday Peyton Pritchard. We have to talk about Peyton Pritchard at least once on every pod. Became just the fifth player this season with at least 15 points, 10 rebounds, and 5 assists in a game off the bench. There were four Celtics to do that since one, two, three, four. Four Celtics to do that since 2007. I'll give you the years. And I want you to tell me if you can name at least one of the guys.
I already
So
ruined your
I think,
game.
oh, you already looked it up?
Well, because I was looking to see if Dick Lipe had his picture on his
Oh,
on his page, and it was the
okay.
first tweet up there. So unfortunately, I already have I could have pretended to be smarter than I am.
I'm
But
proud of you. That's
unfortunately I
growth.
do have the names here.
That's growth. Yeah. So for the audience, we'll just throw this out there so that you can guess yourself and then go look at Dick Lipe's Twitter for the answers. You have one player in 2019, one player in 2018, one player in 2016, and one player in 2007. So
And I'll
that's
tell
a
you this,
fun little
Greg.
homework assignment for everybody.
Two of those names are very surprising to be on that list that I don't think in a million. I think two of them I eventually could have got to. One of them I may have forgotten that they were coming off the bench. Little hint there.
Hmm.
And so that would have been probably the hardest part to get to. But I think I will say the 2018 and 2007 answers, good luck to those of you
Yeah.
that are out there trying to get
This
those.
is 2007 and the 2006, 2007 season. for everybody out
Yeah,
there.
exactly. So
Just to help you
that's
out.
gonna be a tough one. I did have another Dick Leipzig that I almost used for this here, which was about Jason Tatum. In the win the other night, he surpassed Anthony Davis for 11th place for most points scored before turning 27. So far this season, he's already passed KG, Oscar Robertson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and Walt Davis. So he's now at 12,528. I believe with about a roughly I think there's 36 games left until he turns 27. Looks like he's going to get pretty high up on that list. I think Sean Grandy had the full list of everyone that was above him, but he's not going to quite get to the top. LeBron is far and away at the top of that list, so he's not going to quite get to that one. But he's going to put himself in some pretty interesting category here. So if he's averaging 28 points like he is right now, and let's say he's probably not going to play every game, but if he plays most of those games, he's going to give himself a chance to pass guys like Devin Booker, Giannis, Jordan, Bob McAdoo, and he's probably going to land somewhere in the T-Mac Wilt Chamberlain range. So once again, just another example of the air in which Jason Tatum lives his life, and we can't compare.
Definitely not. He's pretty amazing, man. Like Tatum, the moves that he's making, granted against the Wizards, but the Wizards have like some decent individual defenders. Like Koulibaly is a pretty good defender out on the perimeter. That little hezzy spin move he had where he spun baseline and Koulibaly for that two-handed dunk, the wrong-footed two-handed dunk off
That was
on
nice.
Alex Sarr. Like both of those plays, like his athleticism is just reaching another level. And that's talk about Luke's commitment to his body. Like Tatum, and shout out to Nick Sang, like his work with Nick Sang and just becoming such a great athlete. Like Tatum came into the league as like a very average athlete, and I think he's maximized that athletic potential now, where he's just he's one of the best athletes on the court every single game, and it's really impressive.
Yeah. So that's going to do it for this episode, guys. I'm sorry. There's just not a lot going on right now in the Celtics world. We'll have more coming up here. Celtics have another couple of days off here. They're home to the Bulls on Thursday night. So we'll have a Friday coffee and C's session. We can talk about that game, talk about maybe some of these other trade rumors that are going on. I think let's hold that for Friday. There's been some more trade rumors. Dennis Schroeder's on the move, Jimmy Butler potential rumors. So maybe we can add that into our Friday cast here and see where these rumors take us over the next couple of days. Now that we've passed that December 15th date, which opens up several contracts from the offseason to now be moved. So we're going to get a lot more rumors, a lot more movement, or maybe we won't, because some of these rules, Greg, I don't know if you've played around with any of the trade machine. It is fucking complicated. Like, it's really hard to make some of these, all these demands are not going to go the way some of these people want to. So we'll have to see how
now we have to put an explicit rating on the pod.
That's all right. That's
we almost made it through.
Know.
We almost made it through the whole pod. Question for you. I'm just going to steal the one more thing King spotlight right now. This is what I wanted to bring up to you. I had two things I was going to throw out there. If you wanted to do a Sporkle quiz together, but it's probably going to take too long, and I don't know if it's really going to make for great content for the pod. Maybe good YouTube content, but
yeah,
it's holiday season. I was texting you recently about like things that you might want to get your fiance or your wife for Christmas. And it was recently her birthday. Shout out to Lorena for another year around the sun. And I was just wondering, aside from gifts, what are you doing to keep your woman happy these days?
You know what I'm doing. No, I'm just kidding. It's a good question. I mean, I think it's for me, it's just like little things that I know like she wouldn't expect me to do, whether that's just like, oh, usually like, yeah, like I'll help clean up or something, or do something like around the house, like chores or something, but just try to do it before it's like, oh, hey, it's very obvious it should be done. It's like just do those things, you know.
Yeah.
I guess just like little things like that, and try to like notice, like just try to notice stuff more. Like, I mean, as a guy, I don't notice everything, right? So there's something she's like,
Yep.
how come you didn't notice like these shoes? I'm like, I don't fucking know. You have a lot of shoes. I don't notice these things. But every once in a while, you get one right, and if it feels good, makes you feel good, makes them feel good. So little things like that. How about you?
So I think most pod relevant is I'm trying to delay my viewings of the Celtics until she's fallen asleep, because like shout out to NBA League Pass, shout out to YouTube TV. Like the fact that you can just record and watch and fast forward through commercials has saved so much of my time with my fiance, with my newborn baby, who isn't a newborn, by the way, anymore. Boy is huge. boy
Yeah.
is huge, dude. We saw a shout out to Vinny and Lynn with their new baby, and we were out on Saturday with a newborn next to James, and James looked like a giant, looked like an absolute giant compared to Marin. But so in that time that I'm trying to spend more with Danielle and with baby boy before they both fall asleep, trying to watch more of Danielle's shows with her. And I always do this, but
Mhm.
we've recently been, she's recently been watching Gossip Girl, which I had never really seen before. So
The
I've
new
been
one or the
watching
old
Gossip
one?
Girl. I didn't know there was a new one.
Yeah, there's a new one. I think my wife tried to watch it for a little bit. It was really bad. I did not like it.
Okay. So this is like with Blake Lively.
Yeah.
And I don't know any of the other. Blake Lively is the only person that I know on the show. You know, Elizabeth Hurley's on there. I was really excited to see her make an
Didn't
appearance
know
in
that.
like season 2 or 3. She plays a very Elizabeth Hurley character. It's pretty good. It's good stuff. But Gossip Girl. So that's what I've been doing. I've just been watching Gossip Girl with her, checking in. I'm not like locked into every episode, but I kind of like it because I'll, watch one episode and then I'm doing something else for a few episodes. And I come back in and I get to talk to her about it. I'm like, oh shoot, what happened? What happened with Chuck? Like, why? I
Yeah,
thought
we do
Chuck was with
we
that
do that
person.
quite a bit. That's what Lorena usually does. Like if I'm watching basketball, she picks up like a show that I probably wouldn't be into, but then it
Yeah.
usually turns into me checking in, like 'cause I'll be done with the podcast or done watching the game, and then I'll
Yeah.
just jump into it. And I kind of like it because I'm like I don't need to be invested in like that many shows. So like this is perfect
Right.
to have a show that
Yeah.
I'm tangentially invested in that I
Yeah.
can just kind of like lean into their knowledge of. So I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah. Then that's all I got. And for all the, people out there that are trying to figure out better ways to connect with your spouse, maybe you have some suggestions for me and Will, or maybe we just gave you some good advice. So happy holidays, everybody.
Happy holidays, guys. We will be back on Friday morning. Coffee and Celtics. We will see you guys then. Make sure you are following us on YouTube and across our socials. We will see you guys on Friday. Peace.
Missed free throw. Horford the rebound. Here's Pritchard. He loves these. Puts it up half court of the buzzer.
Every time I get this high, I lose my mind. It don't take much no more until I hit the floor. Every time I get this high, it's you I find. It don't take much no more until I'm at your door.
I'm coming to my core, baby. What can I say? You got me on the floor, you know I came to play. I know I shouldn't, but you seem to take my pain away. And every time I score, Jason Tatum fade away. I close my eyes and I'm floating in your river. I call